Hey guys, Jennifer here and welcome to the Family Fudge. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 super delicious but really easy to make soup recipes that are perfect to be made in a slow cooker. Now, if you'd like to make any of these recipes yourself, just head on over to thefamilyfudge.com where you can find and print out these recipes. And you guys, before we get started, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button because I love sharing different crockpot recipes every month. I also share lots and lots of school lunch ideas, grocery hauls, and lots more. And now without further ado, let's get on to these delicious recipes. Okay guys, so first up, I'm going to be sharing a very cheesy recipe. If you guys don't already know, cheese is one of my favorite foods, so this recipe is very high on my list. This is 3 cheese broccoli soup. For this recipe, you're going to need 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 medium onion diced, 1 carrot diced, 2 cloves of garlic crushed, 1 can of evaporated milk. So you're also going to need 4 cups of chicken broth, and then at least 10 ounces of broccoli. You can use fresh or frozen. Both will work just fine. But if you do use fresh broccoli, your soup might take a little bit longer to cook. You're also going to need some salt and pepper for this soup. And then of course, the 3 different kinds of cheeses. And you really could mix these up with any kind that is your favorite. But today I'm using a combination of cheddar. This is 1 cup. I'm also using 1 cup of mozzarella and then just a half a cup of Parmesan. Okay guys, so for this recipe, I'm actually going to start by prepping some ingredients in a separate skillet. Now I know that's one more step, but in this case, it's really easy and I totally think it's worth the effort. I'm going to start by melting my butter. Once that's melted, I'm going to add in the garlic and the onion and I'll give that a stir. Now I do want to cook this for about 2 to 3 minutes or just until the onions are softened. Now once they are softened, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle in the flour. So you can kind of see I'm building a very flavorful base for this soup. It's definitely going to help thicken it up. Now I'm going to go ahead and cook this mixture for about a minute or so, and then I'm going to add my entire can of evaporated milk. So now that this mixture is ready to go, it's time to get everything into my slow cooker. Now I did go ahead and spray my slow cooker with a little bit of nonstick spray. So now I can just pour this right in. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and dump in all of my chicken broth and I want to mix this all together. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add in everything else. So in goes my broccoli, followed by all 3 kinds of cheese, and finally some salt and pepper to taste. Now I want to give this all a big stir to combine. Now you could go ahead and cook this on low for about 4 to 5 hours or on high for 2 to 3 hours. But basically you guys, once your broccoli is softened and your soup is slightly thickened, it's ready to serve. Now I like to garnish my soup with a little bit of extra cheese on top. Next up, I make a slow cooker Italian style meatball soup. And for this, you're going to need 1 32-ounce bag of frozen meatballs. Now you really could use any kind of frozen meatball that you prefer, but I really like to get the turkey ones. They're a little bit less greasy. And I also like to use an Italian style meatball if I can find it. Now also for this recipe, you're going to need 4 cups of beef broth. I'm just using this entire box because it's exactly 4 cups. You're also going to need 2 cans of diced tomatoes, 2 medium potatoes peeled and chopped. I'm also using 1 chopped onion and 1 small bag of frozen mixed vegetables, and you can use any combination that you like. Now to season this up, I'm also going to be using 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and some salt and pepper to taste. And then this part is optional, but I always like to sprinkle a little extra sprinkling of Parmesan cheese. So to make this soup, all you have to do is start by adding your entire bag of meatballs into your slow cooker, and then really you just add in everything else. So in goes my tomatoes, my potatoes, my onions, the frozen vegetables, all of the seasonings, and finally the beef broth. Now I'm just going to give this a big stir and pop the lid on. Now you can cook this on high for 3 to 4 hours or on low for about 5 to 6 hours. Using the frozen meatballs in this soup is definitely a time saver. This is definitely a kid-friendly soup as well. And if you wanted to make this into a freezer meal, once you have all of your ingredients prepped, all you have to do is add them to a Ziploc bag minus the beef broth. You don't want to add that until you're ready to cook it. But you can just take the rest of the ingredients, add them to a Ziploc bag, and stick the entire thing into the freezer. Okay guys, up next I'm going to be making a ham and white bean soup. Now I feel like this is a really classic combination, and it's also a really good way to use up leftover ham if you have some in the fridge. But if you don't, no problem. For this recipe, I'm going to be using 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 chopped onion, 2 cloves of garlic crushed, 1 yellow bell pepper that I've cored and diced, 1 red bell pepper that I've also cored and diced. Then I'm also using 1 diced carrot, 1 can of white beans that I've already rinsed and drained. I'm also using 2 cups of chicken broth and 2 cups of water. And then finally, I'm going to be adding a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Now, just like my broccoli and cheese recipe, for this soup, I'm going to be taking one extra step by prepping some ingredients in a skillet beforehand. Now, if you're short on time, you don't actually have to do this, but I think this adds a lot of really good flavor to the soup, so I think it's worth it. So to my skillet, I'm just going to go ahead and add that olive oil, followed by the diced ham. Now this ham is fully cooked already, so I'm really just cooking it long enough for the edges to be slightly brown and kind of crispy. And this usually takes about 2 to 5 minutes. So once that's done, I'll add in the onion and the garlic, and I'm just going to cook this until the onions are softened. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and transfer this mixture directly into my slow cooker, and I'm going to pour in the rest of my ingredients. So the bell peppers are going in there, the carrot, the beans, the chicken broth, and the water, and finally the salt and pepper. Next, I'm going to add my lid on top, and I'm going to cook this on high for 2 to 3 hours, or you could cook this on low for about 4 to 5 hours. Okay guys, now that brings us to soup recipe number 4, which is another one of my favorites. This is just a really simple sweet corn chowder. For this recipe, I'm using 1 can of sweet corn that I've drained, 1 can of cream corn that is not drained. You definitely want the entire can. I'm also using 1 medium onion chopped, 2 cloves of garlic crushed. I'm also using about 2 cups of peeled and cubed potatoes. Then I've also chopped up 1 stalk of celery, 1 whole carrot. I'm also using 2 cups of chicken stock and 2 cups of water. Now to thicken up this soup, I'm also going to be using 2 tablespoons of cornstarch mixed with half a cup of half and half, or you could also use whole milk. And then of course, I'm also using a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Now you guys, this recipe is super easy because once you have all of your ingredients chopped and your corn drained, all you really have to do is just add everything into your slow cooker. Once you have all of your ingredients in there, you're just going to mix them all together, add your lid on, then I'm going to cook this on high for 3 to 4 hours, or on low for 5 to 6 hours. Now you definitely could serve this soup just as is, but I really like to add some extra toppings. You could add things like cooked and crumbled bacon, extra cheese, green onions, you name it. All of those would be delicious on top of this soup. Our last recipe today is a super delicious stuffed pepper soup. Here's what you're going to need. About 1 pound of ground beef, 3 bell peppers, I'm using 1 green, 1 orange, and 1 red, 1 medium onion, a can of diced tomatoes, some beef broth, some garlic powder, dried Italian seasoning, salt and pepper to taste, and white rice. I'm going to start by adding some coconut oil to a large skillet over medium heat. Then I'm going to add my ground beef and cook it until it is no longer pink. While my ground beef is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and chop up all of my veggies. I'm going to chop all of my peppers, and my onion. And this is going to be really quick and easy using my chopper. Next, I'm going to add the fully cooked ground beef to our crock pot, which I've sprayed with nonstick spray. Next, I'm going to dump in all of our bell peppers and our onion. I'm going to add my diced tomatoes and the juice, 1 teaspoon of granulated garlic, 1 teaspoon of dried Italian seasoning. Next, I'm going to add salt and pepper, about 1 teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper. But salt it to your preferences, of course. And finally, I have the rice. Now you have several choices when it comes to adding the rice. You could add in uncooked rice at this point, and it can cook all together in your crock pot. Now that might make your rice a little bit mushy. So if you don't like mushy rice, you can go ahead and cook your rice separately and then add it into your soup right before you serve it. Next, I'm going to add the beef broth, and you can add anywhere between 3 to 4 cups depending on how thick you like your soup. Once everything is added to your crock pot, you can go ahead and cook this on low for 6 to 8 hours or on high for 4 hours. Okay guys, now I hope you enjoyed all of these recipes today. Don't forget to head on over to thefamilyfudge.com to print out any of these recipes for yourself. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video.